Okay, now we're going to finish it up with one-way and two-way ANOVA visualizations. So first, for our first hypothesis here, we had people who drink a lot of alcohol will like pop music more than social drinkers, and social drinkers will like pop music more than non-drinkers. And then if you run this code, what you see is that we found that social drinkers did like pop more than never drinkers, and social drinkers also liked pop more than heavy drinkers, whereas heavy drinkers and never drinkers were similar in the amount that they liked pop music. Okay, so first we're going to go ahead and summarize our data into means and standard errors just like we did for the t-test. So we're going to take our data, we're going to filter out the NAs from the grouping variable and then group by that variable. In this case, it's alcohol. We're going to calculate the mean. The mean for this, we're using pop music. And then we're going to plot the group as the X and the mean as the Y. We're going to do the same thing as the t-test in terms of doing a geom bar with the stat identity, and I use the same width and fill here, but you can play with that. And then the same code for the error bars, which is just the mean minus the SC and the mean plus the SC. The difference here is that I added in some more significance comparisons, because instead of just comparing males and females, the two groups, we're comparing the three groups. So I have a line to compare never drinkers and social drinkers, a line to compare social drinkers and heavy drinkers, and a line to compare never drinkers and heavy drinkers. So I just typed all of those different combinations in the list. And then I added the annotation for whether it was significant or not. So this one was significant, less than 0.05. This one was significant, less than 0.05. And this one was not significant. So I have 1 star for significant, less than 0.05, less than 0.05, and then not significant. I also changed the Y positions of these, so they were all stacked right on top of each other, and you couldn't really tell the difference. So you can just add Y position and tell it exactly where you want the line and annotation to go on the Y axis, and I just staggered those above my comparison groups. And then of course I gave it a relevant title. And this time I'm using a theme called Minimal. It doesn't look the best for bar graphs, but it's actually one of my favorite themes for plotting line graphs. So I wanted to show you. And as you can see, I just used the y-axis here to determine where these were going to go. So I said, okay, I want one at 3.75, I want one to be right at 4, and then one to be above 4, and I put in those y positions here. This says pop mean. I had labeled this pop mean here, and that could be a little bit confusing, so probably want to do pop music mean so that people don't think that it's population. There you go. Okay, so now we are going to make this graph for our second hypothesis. And our second hypothesis was that people who use the internet most of the day will spend more on gadgets than people who do not use the internet or use the internet only a few hours a day. So our group variable is going to be internet usage. And then our dependent variable was entertainment spending. Put in the group variable as the X variable, which is internet usage, and then mean is still our Y variable. We'll leave the bars the same and the error bars. And then You can choose which comparisons you want to add to a plot like this. And let's see here. Let's go to our inferentials and we'll run our ANOVA for hypothesis 2. So it might be kind of busy if we add all of these different lines, so we'll probably just want to add a couple of them. You can choose which comparisons you want to go in here. For right now, I'm just going to get rid of the comparisons, and I'm going to change this to be mean comparison of entertainment spending by alcohol affinity, and then the Y is going to be entertainment spending. Okay, and there you go. And then you can go back in and add in the comparison bars, starting at like probably 3.75, and I would probably go up to like 4.5 or 5 with those, and add all of the different comparisons between all of these different groups. Okay, finally, I'm going to show you how to make a graph for a two-way ANOVA, and it's very similar to the graph for the one-way ANOVA. So if you remember here, our hypothesis was looking at both drinking and gender in how much people save in terms of their finances. And we have lots of different comparisons here, and if you added different lines for all of the comparisons, it could start to look a little jumbled. So since alcohol is consistently different and can be very easily explained as being different, I'm only going to add the comparison bars for the alcohol statuses. Okay, so I put in both alcohol and gender. We want both of our group variables to not have NAs in them. So I duplicated this code and added in our second grouping variable. I grouped by both variables this time instead of just one, and then summarized the mean using the mean and the standard error using the same code as before. For the aesthetics, I first tagged the X variable, which here I determined to be alcohol, and then the Y is the mean, and then I added gender as a fill variable. There are other options here too. You can do shape and you can do color, so like just the outline color of a shape perhaps. You can do group here if you want the groups to be the same, look the same, then you can just add in group equals gender. But here I'm going to make the genders different colors, so I put fill equals gender. The geom bar is the same, only now we need to add this little bit of code for the position of the bars. So the default is to stack the bars on top of each other, so male would just be added on top of female, which doesn't make sense, a ton of sense in terms of mean values. So here what we want to do is dodge. We want the males to be next to the females in terms of their mean bars. The error bar code is similar, only you also have to add a comma and then this position equals dodge so that the error bars aren't stacked on top of each other. I did 3 comparisons between never drinker, social drinker, heavy drinker, and never drinker, heavy drinker. So I did these 3 comparisons. 2 of them were significant, less than 0.01. 1 wasn't significant, so I have 2 as less than 0.001 with 3 stars and 1 annotated as not significant. And then I changed the title and the y-axis so that it fits for this graph. And then if you run that, you'll see you have your little key over here telling you which one is female and which one is male. You can see by the error bars, since they don't overlap, that gender is different in these groups. So it wasn't really useful to add the comparisons here, but it was useful to add the comparisons between the alcohol groups. So I went ahead and did that. And again, I chose where these went. So as you can see, since these bars are higher, I needed it to go a little higher at like 4 point something. So I chose 4.25 for that, 3.75 for this one, and 4.5 for this one.